All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jane Stevens. I'm the training manager here at Zolo, and we're going to get started right now. So today we are talking about buyers, and last month we did working with buyers, and we talked a lot about building loyalty between you and your buyer client. So how to do that, which really was, broken down into how to prepare them so that they trust you, right? They trust that you know the process and that you're familiar with it and that you're going to guide them, right? So last month was really focused on that. Now let's talk about, we're going to kind of jump ahead. And, now you've been working with some buyers, you're showing them properties and they are interested in a property. Right now, we're still in a seller's market. It's not as crazy as it has been, but we are, still encountering multiple offer situations. Thankfully, you're not up against 20, 30. I think at the height of it, I heard that somebody was up against 70 something offers. So thankfully now it's a little bit less than that. Of course, there's still exceptions, but I am noticing we're still in multiple offer situations. Yesterday, I helped an agent who was up against 3 other offers, including his. So a little bit more manageable, right? You have a better chance of getting your offer accepted when it's not that crazy. So we are going to talk about how to position your offer, what to do, what are some different ideas that you can do to get your offer accepted. And this actually can go together with what we talked about last month. This is something that you can tell your clients when you're first meeting with them, right? So that they're prepared, so they know what they're going to need to do in order for them to get their offer accepted. It's not just down to you. They need to be prepared as well. So we're definitely going to be talking about all those things. I'm just going to make sure I admit everybody into the room. Before we get started, I do just want to launch this poll that I always like to launch here so that I get to know my audience a little bit. So just let me know how long you've been licensed, how many transactions you've done. And of course, if you haven't done any, that's not required. It's just nice for me to know what the experience level is in the room. So if you can go ahead and answer that. While I'm waiting for you guys to answer, I will just share with you guys the training calendar. So of course you can see the training calendar on the workplace group in our training channel. So, always go there to see what's coming up. And then of course, this is where I post the links for the webinar every day before the session starts. So you also get that by email and by text. So we try not to keep it a secret. We definitely let you know, how to join. So Mondays and Wednesdays, we always do the new agent orientation. So if you guys are brand new to Zolo, welcome. We talk about the CRM on Mondays. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll be talking about web forms. So we actually do an offer. We'll work on an offer to lease for those of you who are brand new, who have never done one before. And by the end of that, you should be able to submit your mock offer, which is required for you to have your lease leads turned on here at Zolo. Once that happens, we'll definitely keep you busy. And there is the possibility of converting these lease leads to buyer leads. It does happen. I see agents do it all the time. If you have a client who has a large deposit that they're going to put down, for a lease, they're going to pay 12 months up front, then talk to them about buying. So yes, tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, thanks for asking, that's web forms and Authenticign. So even if you just need a practice run, join me, we'll work through that tomorrow. So yes, you can find the training calendar on the workplace group and the training channel. All right, thanks you guys for answering my poll. So I've got over half of you who have answered, so I'll end it there and I'll just share the results here. All right, so it looks like half of you have been licensed less than 1 year. So again, welcome to Zolo, welcome to real estate. And then I have a handful of you guys who have been licensed less than 2 years, less than 5 years, and less than 10 years. So that's great, a really wide range of experience. I always like to see that on the webinars because yes, even though you may have 10 years experience, it's always good to get, some tips and tricks, especially in a market like this. It is a seller's market. How in the world can we position our offers in the best possible way to get accepted? So it looks like I've got a handful of you also who haven't done any leases, but the majority of you have done over 5. So that's awesome. But today we're talking about buyers. So let me see the answers there. How many buyers have you worked with? So most of you have worked with just a couple. So that's great. So definitely, hopefully some ideas here that you can implement into your business when you're working with buyers. So all of these ideas are definitely something that you should be talking to your buyers about when you're preparing them. If you missed last month's webinar, I do recommend watching that again because it does talk about buyer loyalty and how to prepare them. So this is definitely something you want to include in preparing your clients so they know what they need to do. Buyers need to do homework before they can actually submit an offer, ideally, right? If they have no idea what they can afford, if they haven't spoken to a mortgage broker, it's too soon right now for them to submit an offer. Now, I never discourage a buyer from submitting an offer. If they haven't been pre-approved and they insist on, putting in the financing and inspection clauses, that's fine. Sometimes, buyers need to, learn the hard way that we are to be trusted, right? So if they're not really ready and they're going in with financing, still submit the offer. It's your opportunity to get a buyer's representation agreement signed, and it's also your opportunity to show them what you already told them, probably, right? That in order to get their offer accepted, they do need to go in firm. So that's something that we're going to talk about here today. Let me just admit everybody who is in the waiting room before we really jump in here. All right, so let's get started. 10 ways to get your offer accepted. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. The first thing, of course, that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look at comparables. Now, in a seller's market, when you are looking at comparables, you have to do it a little bit differently. It's not enough just to look at what a 3-bedroom detached home sold for 3 months ago, 6 months ago. It's no longer relevant. Really, you want to be looking at comparables, and you want to be looking at what has recently sold in the area, right? And you'll probably see a trend there that a lot of places get listed for that magic 999 number, right? And then you can take a look at what things have sold for. So did they sell for 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, right? And then of course, dig into what the differences are between the property that sold for 1.2 versus 1.3, right? Maybe it had a pool, the other one didn't. So you really want to dig in, and you really want to look at the details of the property. But in a seller's market, you want to be looking at what the trend is. So what is it that properties are being listed for, and what are they selling for? So if you have a client whose budget is $1 million, the $999 price point, it's not going to sell for $1 million, right? It's going to sell for more. And you need to educate your clients on that. You need to pull the comparables, and you need to know, right? If there's an example of a house that's listed for $899, right? Or what was the example? Yesterday, I helped an agent with an offer. I believe the house was listed, at $849. And so the client wanted to go in with an offer at $870. If you looked at the comparables in that particular area, it actually showed that, a lot of places were listed for $899 or $999, not as high as $999, but they had sold for just under $1 million. So $980, $988. So there were a bunch of properties that sold for that price point. So here they are trying to submit an offer on a property that's listed for $849, thinking $870 is over ask. It's not enough in this market. You need to look at the trends. You need to look at what other properties have listed for and sold for. And you have to let your clients know that properties are actually selling, unfortunately right now, $100,000 over ask, in some cases $200,000 over ask, and sometimes even more. So you really want to know what it is that you are showing them and what the price point is going to be eventually. So you need to be, of course, advising them on that. So the 870, if you have a property that's listed for 849 and you're going in at 870, if you had looked at the comparables, you would probably know that that's a little bit on the lower side, but just to confirm it, you definitely want to reach out to the listing agent. So make the listing agent your best friend right from the get-go. Call them right away, even after the showing, even if it's not offer date yet, right? Because this is what's happening in the market right now. You're going to take your clients out on a showing, and in the MLS listing, it's going to tell you when they are accepting offers, right? They'll also tell you whether or not they're accepting preemptive offers. Now, preemptive offers, if your client decides, I want to submit a bully offer, definitely educate them on everything we're going to talk about here today. They can't go in with an offer that has conditions, it's maybe slightly over ask. It has to be so enticing that the seller says, you know what, we're not going to wait till offer date. We're going to take this amazing offer and accept it, right? So that's a bully offer. You really want to make sure that you are, submitting a good offer. So, Yeah, so let's talk about calling the listing agent. So you want to find out when the offer date is. You want to find out if they're taking preemptive offers. The offer date will be in the MLS listing. So find out if they're taking preemptive offers, and then ask the listing agent the magic question. Don't be afraid to ask. They probably won't give you an answer, but they can give you clues. Ask them what the seller's expectations are. If a property is listed for $849 and you know that in the area things have been selling for $980, $988, what are their expectations, right? And the listing agent might say, well, I can't disclose, what my sellers are expecting. Sure, no problem. Is there a comparable that I can look at that is in line with what you're expecting, right? You and the listing agent can definitely share comparables, right? You can even say, you know what, I'm looking at the comparables and I see that there have been some properties that have sold for $980, $988. You're at $849. Are you expecting over $1 million? My client's budget is, probably going to cap out at that. So if you're expecting over $1 million, we won't submit an offer, right? So you can kind of disclose a little bit about, who your buyer is and what you're trying to accomplish, and just see what they say. So again, if they say, yes, the one that sold for $988, that one wasn't a corner lot like ours. So right there is your clue that they're looking for over $1 million, right? And if your client's budget is $1 million max, then you talk to your client about submitting at their max budget if they're willing to go that high, or maybe slightly even higher, right? So definitely call the listing agent and find out what their expectations are. You're probably not going to get a straight up answer, but you can definitely get clues. So call the listing agent right away. Also, that starts to build your relationship with the listing agent, right? You want the listing agent to know who you are when offer date does come. So if they're not accepting preemptives and you have to wait until offer date, they're expecting, your offer, they already have your phone number, right? You can reach the listing agent directly and they can reach you if they are doing, for example, a second round, which we'll talk about later. But yes, definitely call the listing agent and start to build that rapport and get as much information as you can in order to best position your client. It might give the sellers a little bit of pause if you skip this step, right? And let's just use this example again, where the property is listed for $849 and you submit at $870. And then suddenly you realize that there are 4 other offers and, they're probably close to $1 million, and you jump from 870 to $1 million, right? It might give the sellers actually pause, right? Like, why did you submit so low? Can you really afford the $1 million? Are you approved for that? So, you definitely want to make sure that you're not sending mixed signals. Go in with your best foot forward, which is actually not something I put in the slides here today, but definitely that's going to be a winning strategy. Go in with your best foot forward. Don't go in thinking that you can negotiate right now in this particular market, especially if there are offers. There's a bit of a technique here that you can do as well. You can prepare your offer, right? You can prepare your offer with the 801, which is our offer summary document, and then of course, all of the other paperwork, and you can wait. So usually the offer instructions are that, you submit offers at 7 p.m., but you register by 5, right? Which means that the listing agent is asking you to send in that 801 at least, right, at 5 p.m. so that the listing agent knows how many offers there are. And then you can wait to send your complete offer closer to 7 o'clock, right? So that you have an idea as to how many offers. Because if you register at 5 o'clock and nobody else registers and it's 6:45, then you're the only offer. So your pricing strategy might be a little bit differently if you're the only one. But in this market, typically speaking, you're not going to be the only one. So again, you can wait. You can submit your 801 at 5 p.m. This will notify you of other offers that are coming in. So if you realize that now you're up against 5 other offers, you're up against 10 other offers, you're up against 20, how much do your clients want this property and how aggressive are you going to be? And you might be more aggressive if there's 20 offers versus if there's 4, right? So you might want to wait to see how many offers are actually being submitted until you submit your final offer. This allows you to make any changes. So if you submit the 801 and you do have the offer prepared, again, I'm just going to use this example. It's listed for $849. You have an offer prepared for $870, but now you realize there's 5 other offers on the table. Again, you might want to reach out to the listing agent, right? Find out what, if you submit an offer at 900, are you going to be the highest? Those are other questions you can ask the listing agent. And, again, they won't disclose price, but they can tell you, no, we have offers higher than that, right? Thank you, but no thank you. So you can adjust accordingly, right? So calling the listing agent throughout the process, right from showing the property all the way to submitting your offer when offers are starting to come in, that can, that's going to be your best your best way, right? To find out some details, to get some information. Again, the listing agent can't give you exact numbers, but hopefully there are some hints that he or she will drop so that you can determine what it is that you should be advising your clients. All right. Why would agent admit yours is the highest? Yeah, great question. You know what? It's crazy sometimes the feedback you get from listing agents. I do remember calling a listing agent once. There was an offer in on the property and I asked if it was a good offer, right? Again, just trying to dig for information. And the listing agent said, no, not really. So I knew that I didn't have to go crazy in our offer. So it's just interesting sometimes, you know, what they will disclose, what they will say. You're right. I mean, they probably won't tell you if you're the highest, even if you are the highest at that stage, but they will tell you if you're the lowest, right? So, you know, that's, of course, they're doing that because they're going to try to increase your offer, right? And again, you never know if somebody's going to go from 870 to $1 million. So it happens in this market. So you're right. They probably won't tell you that you're the highest, but they might tell you you're the lowest, right? What they might say if you are the highest, they'll probably say, you know, you're top 3. You're one of top 3. You know, we have 5 offers and you're the top 2, right? So they won't tell you you're the highest necessarily, but that's a good indicator that you probably are close, right? You are close. You're at the top 2. And, you know, maybe you want to increase a little bit more because now you're in competition. So, you know, a good listing agent will pit a couple of offers against each other in order to drive the price up. So, yes, again, clues, take those clues from the listing agent. All right, so let's talk about submitting a firm offer. This is something that you should be talking to your clients about at the very beginning, right? If you are going to be taking buyers out in this market, don't discourage them, right? And you know what, even let me just say this. If you do have clients, buyer clients who say, you know what, we don't want to compete. We don't want to submit firm offers. That's fine. Don't tell them to wait. Don't tell them to sit it out. There are properties that aren't selling. There are properties who, you know, have been sitting on the market. Maybe you can look at the history of a listing and see, have they canceled, relisted, right? They obviously haven't received the multiple offers they were expecting. They obviously haven't received the number they were hoping for. So you might want to do a little bit of digging if you have clients that are not willing to compete, because that, again, goes to our topic today. How do you win offers? At the end of the day, you want to have as many offers accepted as possible. And sometimes if your clients are even just tired of competing and losing, you might want to take a look at properties that have recently been suspended, you know, they've been terminated, whatever the situation is, or if you see one that's come on and off the market with different price points, that might be a good opportunity for your client to come in with a good offer. I mean, you're not going to get a steal in this market, but at least, you know, they might be up against less competition. A quick side note to my side note is if you are going to advise your client to do, you know, a bully offer or, you know, an offer on a property that isn't holding off on offers because they don't want to compete, let them know that there is still a possibility that they will be in competition. Submitting a bully offer does not mean that they are going to be the one and only for them to review, because what happens is when the listing agent receives a bully offer, if it's a good offer, that listing agent is going to notify all of the other agents who have already shown the property and who are scheduled to show the property, right? That offer must be disclosed to everybody, and somebody who is patiently waiting for offer date might decide, okay, shoot, there's a preemptive offer, let's submit ours now also, right? So that offer might come in. Really important step. You know, again, I was helping an agent with this, and you know, the client's expectation was that they could submit an offer and that they were going to be the only ones negotiating with the seller, and the seller was going to counter them if they didn't like it. That is not how bully offers work. Everybody else still gets notified. There still might be an offer or two that comes in that they're going to look at. It just means that if you're submitting a preemptive offer, you are hopefully in less competition, right? I mean, hopefully nobody else submits if it's day one, but if another offer does come forward, just let your clients know that that is to be expected, and it does have to be a really amazing offer for the sellers to consider, right? Because basically they're going to forego their offer date and accept yours. So it has to be really good. So definitely make sure that you're telling your clients that. It does not mean that the sellers are going to negotiate with you. It does not, right? It just has to be great. It has to be a great offer. So that's your preemptive offer speech. But yes, you want to be submitting a firm offer. So this goes back to your buyer consultation at the beginning. Definitely make sure that you are speaking to your clients about submitting firm offers. In other words, no conditions. In other words, they need to be prepared. This goes down to them, right? Have you been pre-approved? A pre-approval isn't enough. If you are going to be submitting a firm offer tomorrow, for example, ask them to reach out to their bank or their mortgage broker and just confirm the pre-approval. Say, listen, this is the property I want to go in on. I want to submit $1 million. Can you please confirm my pre-approval, right? The bank sometimes might say, oh, we need 3 days to verify that. Make sure that your clients are putting some pressure on them, because everybody knows that in this market, you're not going to be able to submit an offer with conditions. So really make sure that you get an answer back from the bank that their pre-approval is solid, and they can go ahead and submit that offer without the financing condition. So they need to be comfortable doing that. You need to talk to your clients about that. And they need to be really comfortable with their financing to remove that condition. The other one that they might want to remove is the inspection. If you have a listing, I love it when listing agents have a pre-listing inspection report, because, you don't want to expect buyers to buy, such a large purchase, a house, without an inspection. So if you as the listing agent are expecting firm offers, then hopefully you can provide a pre-listing inspection report. So on the buyer side, if you're trying to get your offer accepted, before you submit the offer, ask if they have an inspection report that your clients can look at so that they're comfortable going in firm without the condition on inspection. So firm offers. There's also a paragraph in there requesting the survey. Usually I delete that, or I recommend deleting that in a seller's market. So again, you're going in firm. You're really not asking the sellers for anything. You're just asking the sellers to accept your offer. The other thing, if it is a condo, is the status certificate. Again, hopefully the status certificate is available to you so that you can take a look at it. Not you, but their lawyer. You don't want to be liable for anything. There is a great website that I came across. It's called legalreview.ca. And apparently they just have a bunch of lawyers on call, and you can submit your status certificate to them and they will have a lawyer review it and give you feedback within an hour or two. And I think they had an intro rate of $25, but I believe now it's $40. So that's something nice that you might want to offer your buyers, and you can let them know that, again, in that buyer's consultation when you're preparing them. You can say, if the status certificate isn't available, I can prepare that for you. I can have it reviewed for you. So just know that that's not costly. If you have a relationship with a lawyer, they will likely review it for free, but hopefully that means you're also referring them your client on after it's accepted. So anyway, firm offers, status certificate, you can have them reviewed really quickly so that you can take that condition out of your offer. So that would be your status certificate. But again, communicate with the listing agent. If they're okay with that condition, fine. But just know when you're in competition, there might be somebody else who removes that condition. So because if the status certificate isn't available, you might want to also discuss with your clients, how comfortable are you with submitting an offer without seeing the status certificate, which really, discusses the budget that the building has for upcoming repairs, if there are any upcoming repairs. And also a biggie is your bylaws, right? So what are the rules? Can you rent out the condo? Can you have pets? So there's a bunch of information in there that's really useful. So if the status certificate isn't available, then, hopefully you can get that offer submitted and accepted with that condition. But if not, then yeah, just speak to the listing agent. So firm offers as much as possible when and where possible. All right, so we already discussed this. So offering above ask in this particular market, yeah, we're not able really to negotiate unless they have a ridiculous price point, right? You do see this as well, where if you're looking at comparables, you'll see a property maybe that was listed for $999. They had an offer date, and then, they didn't get the offers they wanted. And suddenly, in a day or two after that offer date came and went, now you see that it's relisted for 1.28, right? And then you see it sit on the market. So in those cases, you might be able to negotiate a little bit if your client is willing to go up to 1.25, right? It's not their current list price, but you already know they didn't get what they wanted during offer date, and they're probably relisting at their actual expectation. So offer above ask, unless of course you're watching the history and you're taking a look at what's already happened with the property. And maybe now they do have it listed, at what they're expecting instead of this low number to encourage multiples. So offer above ask on that initial offer date. But again, there's still always opportunities to offer below if that has happened, right? If it's already gone to offer date and they just didn't get what they wanted, they might not get what they want, right? Sometimes sellers have expectations, thinking that their property is the nicest and the best on the block, but that may not necessarily be true. So offer above ask if you're in the offer on the offer date. Otherwise, take a look at the history. Also offering an increased deposit. So as you guys know, when you are submitting an offer, you need to include at least a 5% deposit. Again, take a look at the MLS listing. Sometimes they will ask you for a minimum deposit, and sometimes you might be surprised. Sometimes the deposit is less than 5%. They may say deposit required 10,000, 25,000, whatever it is. So if that's the case, give them what they want. But generally speaking, in multiple offer situations, you want to increase the deposit. So over and above the 5%. So if your clients have $100,000 sitting in a bank account, then, and it's accessible, then, encourage them to increase their deposit. So the more, the better. It does just, show the seller that you are confident with your firm offer, right? It's going to go through. So talk to your clients about that. They have to be comfortable. These are all great ideas, but your client has to feel comfortable and definitely not pressured into doing any of this, but these are going to be ways to secure the property, right? This is going to give you the best chance of getting that property. And you know what? If they really love it, it's funny what people can come up with, right? They might tell you at the beginning, we're absolutely not going over 950. They have all these, criteria, and then they find something that they love and they're willing to push that a bit. So yes, offering an increased deposit might make your offer look better, in comparison. And including the deposit. So that's something else that you can do. You can include it with your offer. So ask your clients to go to the bank, get a bank draft, take a picture of it, and send it to you. That way you can include the photo of the bank draft with your offer that, of course, you're emailing, right? So we're emailing everything. We're not doing in-person presentations. So include the deposit with your offer. So do make sure that you've prepared your clients to do that they do have that deposit available, that they can run to the bank. And you know what, if the offer doesn't get accepted, that bank draft is in their possession. So they would just go the next day to the bank and cancel the bank draft. But if it does get accepted, I've actually heard of listing agents go to the buyer's home to pick up that check so that the very next day or in that moment, it's a firm offer, right? And the sold price can be disclosed to everybody else who submitted an offer. So include the deposit. It typically means that the buyer has to still deliver it the next day. But in some cases, you'll have an eager listing agent who will go and pick it up. So include the deposit. All right, escalation clause. This is something that is an idea. It's a bit of a controversial one. If you look up escalation clause on the RICO website, it is neither encouraged nor discouraged. So that kind of leaves us with this option. So again, if you are going to use an escalation clause, what this is a clause in your Schedule A that increases your purchase price or your client's purchase price in increments of $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, whatever it is you pick, over and above a competing offer that is higher than yours. So if you were to go in at $870 and there was an offer at $875 and you had an escalation clause of $5,000, if the listing agent accepts your escalation clause, is willing to work with your escalation clause, it basically means that they will come back to you and let you know that they do have a higher offer, and would you go to $880? If that competing offer is $875 and your escalation indicates a $5,000 increase over and above a higher offer. So if your client says yes, no problem, $880, 100%, you get it accepted. So this is kind of something that it has worked for me. I know that it has worked for other agents, and it has also not worked for me, right? And not worked for other agents, where you might get feedback from the listing agent. You know what? We don't want to use escalation clauses. We don't want to have to disclose what the offer is, which is fair enough, right? Or prove that we have offers of a certain amount, which, you're not asking for, but some listing agents just won't entertain this, which is fine. You tried it, right? Especially when if you are top 2, top 3, you might want to offer an escalation clause. again, communicate with the listing agent. You know, my client doesn't want to throw numbers in the dark. This is what they're willing to pay for the purchase price, but they don't want to lose it for, $3,000, $5,000. So would you consider an escalation clause? Communicate with the listing agent and find out if that's something you can do. And of course, talk to your clients about, their comfort in doing this, because they're basically submitting kind of in a way a blank offer, right? The escalation clause does include something of a cap. So you could put in there, our client is offering $875 with a $5,000 escalation clause, and you could put in there up to a maximum of $900,000. Now, the reason why I usually take that out is because, as I said, if you were to use the escalation clause, the listing agent would have to get back to you and say, we do have a higher offer. Would your clients be able to do $880, with your $5,000 escalation clause already incorporated? And then you say yes or no, right? So that's usually how that goes. But do make sure that your clients, understand this clause. I lost my train of thought there. I know I was going to say something else. Shayla, go ahead. I see your hand is up.
Yeah, my question is, with the escalation clause, can we ask the listing brokerage or listing agent to see the offer if he's saying 880 and that is how do we know that?
Yeah, so great question. Yes, so the escalation clause that I came across has a bunch of things. It has the increase, right? So your client is willing to increase $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, whatever it is, right? And then it also says up to a cap of 900, say, right? And then it also usually says, that we reserve the right, or we have the right to review the offers. Now, I take these things out, and actually thank you for this, because that was my train of thought that I lost earlier. If you include that second piece, right? So you're saying, yes, my client is willing to go $1,000 over, but up to a maximum of 900. Now, if you haven't already spoken to the listing agent about them allowing an escalation clause, then they might just come back to you and say, you know what, we're not going to accept your escalation clause, but now we know your cap is 900. So, we'll sell it to you for 900, right? So you're kind of giving away your cards there. So I don't usually use the cap.
Yeah.
Yep. And
this is what I wanted to say, that because if I tell them, okay,
would shoot
for 900. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't include the cap. And then also what I don't do is that second piece, or that third piece, I guess, that says, we want to look at the other offers. I think that is kind of saying that you don't trust the listing agent, right? And it's kind of, you don't want to be negotiating like that, right? You want to trust the listing agent. And if the listing agent says, we do have an offer, they actually won't tell you what the other offer is. They'll just tell you, we have a higher offer, or they shouldn't anyway. We have a higher offer, and your escalation clause says that you're going to go $5,000 over a higher offer. So would you do 880? So you have to trust that they have, an 875 offer, right? You could ask for that, but again, it's just gonna, it's just gonna, I don't know. Yeah. It's like not trusting, right? And you can negotiate in good faith.
Okay, another question here. Mm-hmm. So with the escalation clause, they have to come back to you and ask, or they understood, okay, there is an escalation for $2,000 or $5,000 higher than whatever the number is, and they can proceed with that automatically?
So they do come back to you. In my experience, that has always been what has happened. In speaking to other agents who have used this successfully, it is a dialogue. It is a communication that you're having with the listing agent. So you definitely want to say, first of all, will you accept an escalation clause, right? And then if so, you put it in your contract, you resubmit it, and then they get back to you and they say, okay, we do have a higher offer. We'll work with yours at 880. You need to revise the offer and send it back to us, right? So it's communication. It's not them.
So basically, if we are putting the higher number, say $5,000 more, so the paper come back to us and we have to cross it off and put higher number, and my client has to sign it. That's how it works? Okay,
it wouldn't come back from the listing agent. They would ask you to improve your offer. So you would go in and whatever it was that you sent them previously, you would just revise that purchase price, cross it out with the new number, have your client initial, resubmit it to the listing agent, and then they sign it.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And that's
Yeah.
an important piece also to let your clients know about, because, you know, again, sometimes, especially with the example of preemptive offers, they think that they're going to be negotiating with the seller and that the seller is going to sign back the contract. That is not necessarily the case. If a seller signs back the contract, they are now in it, right? So, you know, they usually ask that you improve your offer and then you resubmit it to the listing agent for the landlord, or sorry, not for the landlords, for the sellers to accept. So yeah, just something to let your clients know as well, because sometimes clients will ask that, right? Well, I want to know that they're going to accept 880. I want them to counter me, right? Unfortunately, in the seller's market, it doesn't work like that. You just have to keep giving, right? You just have to keep improving. And you know, hopefully, yeah, you have a good relationship with the listing agent. If anything happens in between, because that has happened as well, for me anyway, using an escalation clause where the listing agent and I, you know, did talk about a price, the contract was revised, and in sending the contract, you know, buyer number 2, who was kind of like also competing for the property, was increasing their price, you know, also in increments. So this is actually why escalation clauses, you know, are a little bit tricky, and not a lot of listing agents will take them, because what happens if everybody has an escalation clause, right? Like, what's the number? What's the number going to be? So it works sometimes, it doesn't work in others. It has worked for me, it has worked for others. And as I said before, it has also not worked for me and not worked for others. So use it when you feel like you are maybe top 2 or top 3. Do increase your offer. So, you know, if you know that you're top 2 or 3, increase your offer to the best, like the most that your client wants to offer is comfortable offering. But, you know, there's always that doubt, right? Like, is this going to be enough? You know, am I going to be $1,000 short from offer number 2, offer number 3 that I'm also competing against? Because it's a blind process. This is when you can step in and say, listen, this is my client's best offer. But, you know, if there's another offer for a few $1,000s more, you know, my client would be devastated to lose it. So we've included an escalation clause. So use it in those cases. Don't use it when you're the lowest number, right? Like initially right out of the gate. You might want to save this until you're, again, top 2, top 3, and always putting your best foot forward. Yeah, okay, absolutely. So here's another question. So keeping in mind that the appraisal could come in short. Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that. So yes, let's talk about this. So yes, an appraisal can come in under what your buyer has actually purchased the property for. But really, like, again, using the example of the 849 number, right? If the comparables in the neighborhood have sold for $1 million and your client's offer is $1 million, then it should appraise, right? So yes, you are going in well over ask, but there are comparables to support that number. Now, if you're in a neighborhood where everything is listed for 849 and everything is selling for like 980, maybe $1 million, and your client is offering 1.1, right? Now you might be in trouble. So, or your buyer will be in trouble. So definitely let them know that. Again, going back to your buyer consultation at the very beginning, definitely talk to them about submitting offers well over ask. If it doesn't appraise, then they have to come up with the shortfall. Hopefully they have, you know, money in the bank, as they say, to cover that shortfall. And sometimes they do, right? Sometimes people just really want a property and they're okay if it appraises for less, they'll cover the difference. And that's why we see sometimes, you know, some properties that are, I guess, really desirable, you get 20 offers and everybody's, you know, offering within a certain range. And then you have somebody who just blows the doors off. And that's because they want it that bad, right? And they probably have cash to cover the difference in the appraisal amount. So, or they're a cash buyer. But so it does happen, but yeah, just definitely talk to your clients about that. And yeah, just make sure that they do have money to cover the shortfall, but look at the comparables, right? Also set them at ease that yes, if it's 849 and they're submitting an offer at $1 million, that's not necessarily going to be over the appraisal amount, because there are comparables in the neighborhood to support that price. So do talk to them about that as well. All right, can we review all the offers process after they accepted an offer or after closing? Can we review the offers? No, what we can do is we can ask for the 801s. So if you doubt the listing agent, you know, which unfortunately you don't. I know that there are, you know, bad listing agents out there, but they're not all like that. Just assume that you're working with a good one, an honest one, because the majority of agents, I think, are good agents, right? It's just unfortunately we do have some bad apples. So if you doubt that a listing agent has actually received 20 offers, 3 offers, 5 offers, whatever it is, yes, you can ask your managing broker. So our managing broker is Kevin Ali, and he would approach their brokerage and ask to see the 801s, right? And that would prove that yes, you have, you did receive 5 offers. So you can't actually receive the details of the offers, but you can see the 801. So if you submit an offer and it gets accepted and the appraisal comes short, what do we do? So again, talk to your clients beforehand, because if it does happen, they're going to have cash on hand to cover the shortfall. So if you don't have conditions in there, that client is obligated to buy that property at that price. So yes, you want to make sure that they have the cash to cover that shortfall. Worst case scenario, if the deal falls apart, you don't want their deposit in jeopardy. So really make sure beforehand that if they are submitting an offer that is well above the recently sold comparables, then yes, just make sure that they have money, because otherwise, if the deal falls apart, then, they could stand to lose their deposit or some of their deposit, which is, if you submitted an increased deposit, that could be significant. So yeah, do talk to your clients about that. Make sure that they are aware that it could appraise lower if they really are going like way, way, way over ask and way over the comparables, so that they know, they'll need to cover that. And you know what? It has happened. People get creative if they need to. Hopefully your clients aren't in that situation, but if it does appraise less than what they were hoping for, then, hopefully they're able to find the money somewhere. All right. So inclusions, exclusions. So, inclusions are usually stated there. Well, exclusions also in the MLS listing. So if you are in a multiple offer situation, just stick to what is on the MLS listing, right? You don't want to be asking for the chandelier and, the patio furniture and this and that. If you're asking for a whole bunch of things and everybody else isn't, then again, that's not going to position you in a good, it's not going to help you win the deal, right? So if your clients really want that patio furniture, maybe that's your closing gift to them or a gift certificate, right? To Wayfair, whatever it's going to be. But don't put that in the offer, maybe if they really want it, you can approach them later, but, and buy it privately, but don't include it in the offer. Just keep the offer really clean and really simple, as no conditions if possible. And, giving them the date that the seller wants. I didn't touch on that earlier, but the increased deposit and keeping the inclusions, exclusions exactly the way the seller is requesting. All right. Oh, the escalation clause. I already talked about that. All right, so last but not least, or almost last but not least, before you get your offer accepted, is again, just a touch base with the listing agent. You must be in touch with the listing agent. It's hard sometimes. I've also experienced listing agents that just don't call you back, right? You have an offer in, no communication at all, and then suddenly it's sold, right? So, again, unfortunately, there are some listing agents that don't do the best for their clients. It's best if you have a couple of offers that, you pit against each other, for lack of a better term. But if not, then yeah, you just want to make sure that you're in communication with the listing agent. And if not, then yeah, it sells, and sometimes you don't get notified. But hopefully you do have a good relationship with the listing agent, so that you're in communication right from the time of showing the property all the way through to getting your offer submitted and negotiated. So that's really going to be super important to have that relationship with the listing agent. So even at this stage, right, in the final minutes of your offer expiring, or the final hour, you definitely want to be in touch with the listing just to make sure, are the clients going to work with my offer? What else do we need to do? Be aggressive, right? Like, be that buyer's agent that is really, looking out for their clients and really wants the offer accepted. What do we need to do? It's a seller's market. It's not the other way around. So last but not least, you get the offer accepted. So let me see what I've got in the chat here. How much is the deposit? So typically it's 5% of the purchase price. So if that is not available to your clients, again, hopefully you did prepare them way before preparing an offer that they are going to need funds available. If it's not, you can structure it. That is an idea that you can do in the offer. So if they have 10,000 available now and they need to transfer money from their RSPs or whatever it is, and that's going to take a few days, that the balance gets paid in a few days, right? And you can put that in the Schedule A, but ideally you have prepared your client. Not only do they have the funds available, but they have taken a bank draft, a photo of a bank draft that they're sending to you so you can submit that with the offer. Because really all these things are going to just increase your chances of getting an offer accepted. So again, increased deposit, no conditions if you can, give the closing date, that the sellers want, and just keep the offer really, really clean. So no conditions in the Schedule A. So let me know if you guys have questions. Oh, I will stop the share here. And let me see, how are we doing for time? Oh, perfect. Okay, so we've got a few minutes to chat about this. So let me know what you guys have been experiencing in terms of multiple offers. Can the buyers get the cash back if we went no condition and cannot close the deal? So that's unfortunately where the lawyers get involved. So if you have a firm offer and the deposit has been delivered, it's a contract. They are a party to a contract and they are legally obligated to close. If for whatever reason their financing falls through at the last minute, again, you might try to step in and save the deal, see if it is possible for them to find, funds, if the appraisal fell short, if that's the reason, if they're able to cover that. And if not, if the deal truly is falling apart, then yes, you're going to have to get probably the lawyer involved. Sometimes you will ask the listing agent to sign a mutual release and the deposit will be released back to you. But if it's a firm offer, they're not going to do that readily, right? They're going to probably want to relist the property, resell it. And if there's a shortfall between what they end up selling it for and what your buyer's offer is, those could be, their damages, right? So I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, you would have to talk to a lawyer about what the risk is there. And yeah, their deposit could be entirely lost or partially lost. So definitely, yeah, you want to make sure that if you are submitting a firm offer, that your clients are comfortable and they fully understand that they do have to close on that property. All right, great questions. So yeah, let me know. Yeah, what else has with your multiple offer situations, if you've won any recently, or if there was something that you learned from one that you maybe lost out on, let me know because I'd love to share it with the group. One of my most recent ones I already shared earlier was just that preemptive offer. If you have clients who are willing to submit a preemptive offer, just make sure that you let them know that that does not mean you are negotiating privately with the sellers. The other agents who have shown the property or will show the property will be notified that there is an offer and they may come forward with an offer. So let your clients know that yes, you may still be in competition. It'll just be less competition than what you would have on offer date, especially if it's a really nice property. So do talk to your clients about preemptive offers and how that works. Awesome. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. And if it's easier, feel free to just raise your hand and I can unmute you so you don't have to chat in the chat box. All right. Well, I'll give it a few minutes here. And yeah, in the meantime, if you want to join us this week, what do we have this week? I believe we have Zolo mortgages on Thursday. So again, if you have clients that you're talking to, if you have buyers that you're talking to, definitely put them in touch with Zolo mortgages and they can let you know as well if your clients are going to get approved or not, what their situation is, right? Awesome. Ahmad, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add in regards to what you were saying, experience regarding some multiple offers. What I came through was basically even the listing saying no preemptive offer or we're not open to offers. I found out if you go in really strong, they would accept the offers. And in my 2 offers last month, they accepted, even though it said no preemptives. And I talked to the listing agent. I said, your listing says no preemptives, but what can we do here? And then, upon finding out, I saw that, a lot of agents put that just to, have no low ballers coming in.
Yeah.
So that's what my experience is in regards to multiple offers.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good information. Thanks for sharing, because that's so true. Even if it says no preemptive, just call the listing agent. You're right. And just say, I have a really great offer. It's going to be firm. what are your clients looking for? And, you know, will you take it preemptively? So you're right, that might work. And in that case also, yes, they would have to change the instructions on MLS, ideally, notify everybody else. So, you know, hopefully you're not in competition, but yes, definitely, even if they say no preemptive offers, you know, hopefully you submit something that they just can't refuse, right? Yeah, and if the sellers sign that form 244, so seller's instructions, instructions can change, right? So that can be updated. Escalation clause, yes, absolutely. I will post, so this recording will get posted on the workplace group. And what I'll do is I will copy and paste my escalation clause and I'll put it in the comments so that you have that for future reference. And CMA, yeah, if you guys are interested in doing CMA, we didn't have time here today to actually do one, but we do have some previously recorded webinars on how to prepare CMA. And actually, I do believe that it is in Stratus because it's an older recording. So if you can't find that, let me know and I will send it. Actually, I'm going to make a few notes just for myself here because I can follow up with you guys afterwards and send you that information. So the escalation clause and the CMA link. Okay. Noted. Excellent. Thanks so much, you guys, for joining me today. I love the feedback. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you on the next webinar. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day. Bye.